men are in the shade and Ross is in the sun.
And I was first I said
Chivalrous man.
first I said to David, you know, I'm really not feeling so good.
Just for practice,
Okay.
I just thought I'd get it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I said to David, not really feeling so good, and he's like, not really feeling so good.
I'm in the shade. I'm fine.
Yeah. No, when it came to these really sweet people, and Jan was like, you locked your legs, didn't you? I was like, what the heck are you talking about?
Man, that's one for the books.
It'd be nice to have that adapter since this doesn't fit hardly anything anymore except for
No, I had to
orange.
bring
Oh,
mine
you
from
didn't get
home.
mine? This comes with mine came with it already.
Didn't you get one?
You have an extra one?
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe that's why I don't have one.
Oh.
I was wondering. I thought.
Oh, I don't have one either. I don't have one either.
Should have brought me some coffee in here.
You can have this one. Any more adapters?
I'm good for now.
What's the topic?
Adapters.
Oh, adapters.
Mm-hmm. I brought mine from home. There's nothing worse than just dragging on and being out of touch with the world when your phone dies.
What was that? What's that joke this woman made at the talk to us about the pronunciation from Boston over to
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
Khakis.
Khakis. And
Yeah.
your khakis.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Khakis.
Especially the people that would say the word khakis. What time are we due to start officially, David?
Like now.
Okay.
Circle up.
You want to read my world? Look at this email.
There's 10 emails there, and they're all junk.
Read this. Cancel, yep.
I said, oh, that's a shame. Is that what your entertainment in the morning?
Treat him like
Accustomed to being
Greenways.
in all interaction. Understands when you say out, need to pee. Understands holding one finger up and just wait a minute. It's hysterical. Recently had a bad groom.
yeah, integrity of his hair.
It's a bit shabby looking at the moment.
I said, oh, yeah, look.
Some of these I keep. You know, this is a keeper one.
Okay.
It's been a lot of fun.
I'm not gonna eat bad food. Oh, sale, 50% off.
Help me with the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call the recessed meeting back into order. I don't think we need to do a motion to go back into session, do we? No. All right. We were in the midst of recreation requests.
We're in the middle of a pool.
In the middle of a pool, I think.
About to jump in the water.
About to jump in the water. So, Ms. Thigpen, tell us about the pool situation.
This is the big piece of our capital planning that we'd like to talk to the commissioners about. We are coming to you today, and I guess I'll just preface this all by saying I'm hoping that you can give us some direction. And so I just want to set the stage of what we've done, where we've been, what we've looked at, and then ask for some help. We are at a critical crossroads in this community for swimming pools. We have a number of pools that are aging. Our indoor pool, Exoigner, is close to, I think it'll be 50 years old here soon. We got it in 1978, was built in the 60s. We are basing what we're bringing today on a lot of studies and information we've collected, so I kind of want to just lay that. We've looked at 6 to 8 different types of pools, of indoor pools and aquatic centers. We looked at, did computer reviews or actual visits to pools in Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. We've talked with people, we've asked questions, and now we're needing to ask your help in as how we should move forward. We know there's a lot of health benefits to swimming, and that list alone can go on and on and on. One thing that we did when we were, when I was so disappointed we didn't have the formal report, but about a month ago I said, you know, what we really want to do is kind of ask people. Let's do an informal person next to you, person on the phone, person on the street kind of interview. So we had 5 or 6 staff persons, and their one question was this to the people they talked to. What would it take to get you into an indoor pool? It was very specific. What would it take to get you as an individual into an indoor pool? Well, the answers were all over the place. I'll sum them up here in a minute, but we heard different comments about what everybody thinks about a community pool. The thing that we saw the most, though, was that it fell into 5 primary areas, which I think we knew, but was validated when we continued to talk to people. And the 5 primary areas that we heard from people was the location of the indoor pool was very important to them. Respondents said they wanted a pool close to where they live and that's convenient. The second thing we heard was that the cost was important to citizens. What was it going to cost them to swim, and what were the amenities that were going to be there, and was that going to be affordable to the community? The third point that the community made when we asked them that one question, what would it take to get you into an indoor pool, was that they were interested in the variety of programming. Was it going to have swim lessons? What type of swim lessons? Was it going to have kayak lessons? Was it going to have therapeutic exercise classes? What kind of programming was going to be involved? Which takes us back to a key USA Swimming tenet, base for USA Swimming, which is programming precedes design. So what's that programming going to look like in a community pool? 2 other things that were important to the public was hours of operation. Was it going to be open early? Was it going to be open late? Was it going to be open on weekends? When was it going to be available to the public? And the last point was, and this is the one that surprised me the most, I think, is that citizens felt like a clean, safe, aesthetically pleasing environment was very, very important to them. So we did that informal study, and we added that to studies that we've done through the years. We've looked at a number of different studies, and one of them goes back as far as 1994 that we found, and we have studies and more studies, and one of the studies in 94 was about the community, at the point that Buncombe County operated Recreation Park, and that was a study that was done. There was a study done by the nonprofit Asheville Buncombe Health and Wellness Aquatic Community. Those were swimmers, nonprofit. They did a study in 2006. We had a study done in 2012 of the Zeugner Pool, conditions and assessment of the Zeugner Pool. We had, in between there, and I left it off the list, which is kind of embarrassing, but we also had a departmental master plan that we did, which was presented to you in 2008, which talked about an aquatic center as one of the goals that the Parks, Recreation and Greenways Advisory Board wanted to see. We've looked at a business plan design that was done by one of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board members. We looked also in 2012 at a study of what it would take to cover one of our outdoor pools, to actually enclose an outdoor pool. And then most recently was a study done by Kevin Post with Councilman Hansacker Company, and they did a aquatic facility study, a pro forma analysis, and I'll talk about that a couple times since it's the most recent study that we have. We looked at some pools and looked at some pools, and this is the type of thing that we know and the type of thing that we've seen. We were pleased that all along the line, we were soliciting public input. The community, along with the last year's Culture Recreation Authority Board, visited several aquatic centers. We did research on facilities that ranged from a 76,000 square foot full service recreation program in Roanoke, Virginia. It was built in 2010 at a cost of $32 million, down to some of the smaller facilities, and one of the smaller ones that we looked at, which was a 41,000 square foot pool in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which was built in 2005 at a cost of about $5.6 million. What we know is that that's a wide difference in the type of pool. We've also done a lot of work as we went along to also look at those operational costs and revenues. We have projections for operational expenses of many of these pools. We have projected debt service from many of the pools that we looked at and talked about. We have projected revenues that we've looked at from the different pools. And what you got right before we took a break was a current inventory of the Library, Recreation, and Culture Department properties, so that you have in front of you and their age. We don't want to throw too much data and fact on you, but want to leave it, as we talk about new pools, to talk about also about our ongoing needs for our facilities. And we'll mention that. I'll talk a minute about construction and operating costs. Construction is where we keep coming back to, and it is our summation that to build a full-service aquatic and recreation program would cost approximately $35 million. That would include property cost of 8 to 10 acres. The cost that we're using is one that we've gathered from other facilities. It's one that we put together information on. Steve was instrumental in putting together for the CRA board last year. The construction cost of a $35 million pool also brings with it with an annual operating cost of about $1.98 million annually to operate. That would be staff, from staffing through to chemicals and water and facilities and all it takes to operate a full-service recreation center. Full service is one of those definitions that we're using. The CRA, when we were with them last year, part of what they considered part of a full-service center was a skating rink, ice skating rink. We've also looked at full service that would involve gymnasiums, exercise rooms, the gymnasium again, locker room facilities, multiple pools. Usually we're looking at 3 pools of varying sizes when we look at these different aquatic centers. We also know, not including debt service, that the projected revenues, for example, of that bigger facility I just mentioned, that aquatic center to build at $35 million, has annual revenues projected right at $1.6 million. I think I just mentioned to you that what we saw was an operating cost of $1.98 million. What we're seeing in both the bigger and the smaller facilities, I'll go on to say what we looked at with the smaller facility was $7.5 million to construct. It had a $614,000 a year operating cost with a revenue of $325,000. We are seeing a gap on any variety of pools between operational cost and revenues. It's just what we've seen so far and what we've looked at. And we've looked at quite a few on paper and on the internet and in person. We've looked at pools of varying sizes, and we've also looked at the possibility of what else could we do, what other options are out there. We looked at the option of even covering one of our outdoor pools. So we have 5 outdoor pools, 4 of them sitting directly beside high schools or schools in Buncombe County, one of them that does not. We did this study back in 2012, and went back to the contractor and asked her to bring that number up to 2015 pricing. What would it cost to cover a pool? It's not everybody's favorite answer. It's not everybody's number one, oh, heck yeah, let's cover a pool. But we've seen a lot of different types of pool covers. There's a variety of materials that are out there now. Our pools that are open, our outdoor pools are open about 10 weeks a year. They have a bathhouse office that sits separate from the pool. So in order to cover a pool, you also would need to cover the office locker room space, bathhouse space. So you would be talking not just a little bubble over a pool, but also to incorporate the office and the locker room space. At the point we do that, or at the point that that would happen, if allowed, it also means bringing the bathhouse facilities up to all current standards, which also adds to the cost of that covering. So when we talked back with the contractor, or a contractor that gave us a cost, we were looking at approximately $1.8 million to cover an outdoor pool, incorporate the bathhouse office with that pool. And that is just for that pool and does not include parking lot or any other improvements. And in that standpoint, probably looking conceivably at $2 million to cover one of the existing pools. Now, I will be quick to tell you, we have not done studies to find out structurally what the pools could bear, and all those intricacies that planning and physical facilities could help us with down the line. But we did look at that as one of the options. The Zeugner Center has served us well. It has served this community well. It has served some of our high school swim teams very well. But I think we are at the point now that to invest any additional funds in that facility for upkeep or major maintenance or even minor maintenance is not the best investment at all, in my opinion. The public information we have now makes it clear that citizens want a pool that is close, accessible, affordable, and offers clean, safe, inviting environment. I will tell you also that when we started looking at this several years ago, the building costs were different, the land costs were different. And so things have continued as the economy has gotten better, which is the good news. So have the cost of what we're seeing some of the prices are. We talked not too long ago with somebody in our tax department, for example, and what we had been estimating as land cost seems to be considerably different now than it was 5-10 years ago. And most recently we're hearing on major transportation with accessibility about $152,000 an acre. The only property that we talked about with the CRA board that the Parks and Greenways Recreation Department has is out at the sports park. So when we looked at a smaller pool, we looked at the sports park property, which is 5 to 7 acres. It's on the multi-use field that's up above the soccer fields, but as you come down into the main part of the park, its access was fairly accessible off the major roads. There are, I've had an opportunity a couple times recently to talk to Terry Gentile again and to get her input on pools. When we looked at a 10-lane, 25-meter, 25-yard pool out at the sports park on property we owned, that's the number that you're looking at is the $6.5 million. It did not include the property cost because at that point we looked at property that we already owned. When we looked at the alternative of a much bigger aquatic facility, recreational facility, we looked at multiple pools, which would potentially include a water therapy pool as well as a children's pool and a major competition pool for a 50-meter pool for competitive swimmers and collegiate swimmers, as well as the ability to accommodate high school swimming. When we looked at that, the price of that came closer to the $35 million that you have in front of you with the operating costs on the capital plan. That's as close as we could get for needing direction. We have, we've looped around, we've circled back around, we've asked ourselves those questions, we've talked to people in the community. There are as many answers as there are, there's many questions as there are people. There's as much input as there are people. And when we've looked at all the different answers with partnerships, people, one of the questions always comes up, so aren't there possibilities for people to partner? Aren't there funding sources out there? Aren't there naming possibilities? Absolutely. But until we know what direction, I wouldn't know what we were asking people to contribute to. Are you asking them to name a yet-to-be-sized pool in a yet-to-be-decided facility in a yet-to-be-determined space? Are you asking them to sponsor something that we don't have a plan for yet, but hope we will? So I think, yes, absolutely, there are opportunities out there to raise funds. And now we need the direction. We would request your input to help us figure out what direction is that you would like us to continue to look at.
So, thank you for,
Do you have the summary sheets? That's the
last slide.
yeah.
You have the summary sheet of the request one? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
I'm sure Fran can answer many questions for you, but just so we're on the same page for today, because we're not asking you to do a whole lot, there are some things that we're going to include in the 2016 budget that you'll need to consider between May and June, and those are the Lake Julian, the Greenways, and the other park improvements. So those will come back to you in the budget after the message, and you can consider those. We really do need some direction on what you would like to see as components in an aquatics facility, because what you want drives who we can partner with. So that's the kind of discussion we would like to have today. Do need to let you know that as soon as the swim season is over at Zoigner, which will happen in just maybe 6 weeks, we're going to have to close that pool. There's just it's beyond end of life, and there's just nothing we can do. So we would welcome, one is we're happy to answer any questions you have, and the other is we would welcome your input on what would you like to see in a facility, so we can go forward and do some design, some discussions, and who can you partner with, because you partner with a lot different person with an ice skating rink than you do with an aquatics program itself.
So, thank you for that report. It was really good. What I learned from being on the CRA, swimmers are extremely passionate, and they have as many different opinions as animal people do. And I am not a swimmer, but what we learned was the high school swimming, correct me if I'm wrong, need a 25-meter pool for their competitive swimming?
25 yards, yes.
Yeah. So for that need, and I think that's separate from the others, but to me this is an immediate need to continue high school athletics. Could the money for that pool come from the school's sales tax?
We're very happy to go forward and have that discussion with the superintendent, Dr. Baldwin, and see if we could work that out with him. They are the primary users of Zoigner. I doubt 90% of the time, would you say? They are the primary users at Zoigner for their swim teams. And they take prime hours of pool time.
Programming seemed also a big challenge as far as when people...
Yeah. Excuse me, I would like to add that the high schools are swimming in a lot of other pools also. Some are swimming at Asheville School. Some of them are swimming at the YM. I know that Owen, I saw an article that they're swimming at the YW. So that it's not all the high schools are swimming at the same pool. They are swimming pretty much wherever they can find water.
And then to the second part of it, the 50-meter pool, is that what's at the Nature Center?
Yes, we built that a number of years ago. before it was turned back over to the city. It's a 50-meter pool.
And the cost of covering that?
Oh, did we look at the cost of covering that? It's, we would have,
Not recently.
yeah, we'd have to get a cost on that.
But the $1.8 million cost to cover an outside pool, that's for a somewhat smaller pool, or, so you'd have to, it would presumably be a bigger number than that.
A much bigger number than that, because that's a 25-yard pool that would cover our smaller pool, our smaller neighborhood pools are
Right, okay.
25-yard. I keep wanting to say meter.
Do we know how big the, is this the only pool that I can visualize, is the Hominy Valley pool? Do we know how what size that pool is? Do you have any idea? That is a real specific question, I'm sorry, but that, you know, I'm wondering as far as.
Wasn't it 25 yards?
Yeah, they're all the same size.
They're all 25 yards, so those would work for the school's athletic teams. And 4 out of 5 of them are near a school.
They would. We'd have to cover it, and the thing that you have to realize, it takes away prime programming time in an existing pool, so we'd want to look at one that wasn't used, in particularly those afternoon hours.
Well, I'm not saying cover that one, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that, you know,
Whichever
try to
one we
get an
looked
idea
at.
of the size.
Could the schools build one with their sales tax money at the sports park?
Certainly, there's not anything that would stop them from doing that. It would just be a decision on their part to invest the money that way. The school capital fund is wealthy enough to do that.
Could I suggest a framework that we discuss, have discussions, Fran and Wanda and commissioners? It seems like to me that one of the first things we need to do is talk about our existing facilities and the needs of potential partners. UNC Asheville, antiquated basement pool. I don't know if Warren Wilson still had one. Because the way I look at it, folks, there are several levels we could do this. We could replace Zugner. That's the easiest. We could get the school. I mean, I think it's always good to get partners on it. But, you know, we can replace and just kind of keep what we got, not try to do any tourism development, championship, you know, type things, just replace. That's a low level. A higher level would be, okay, let's do regional championships, let's do a little bit more. Another level would be, let's get into college, which would cost more and have more requirements, as I understand it. And then the final 2 levels would be, let's do a facility for everybody, the whole community, and including kids, or maybe that's the ultimate goal, maybe modules or something. And then the final one that we talked about at Cultural Resource Recreation Authority was to do one that had everything, kind of had volleyball, had the whole thing. That would probably even more than the $30 million that you've quoted. So it seems like to me the first thing is we want to survey what the existing facilities are and what the existing need is. And it sounds like we're missing that piece, although I think Commissioner Frost is probably right that there's as many needs as you have. I mean, they want as much as we can get. But the swim community and the meetings we had with the public, it seems like there was not a lot of everybody get at the same table and talk about what you need. Let them hash out a little bit about what their united voice is to us, and then we can make the call about what we can afford. So I think there's some pieces of the puzzle. I'd still like to move forward with this conversation, but the existing facilities, what the needs, as you understand it, are at this point, and then the choices we have, I think you've laid them out, but I think we missed the first 2 parts. And then I think the ultimate decision that this board will have to make, do we want to get into the tourism and development part of it? And if we don't, you know, that eliminates that top level right off the bat.
And I think it would be helpful to us, we can bring you back some recommendations on existing pools and how we might purpose or repurpose those. But I think what we're really missing is the ability to know what you'd like to have in, whether it's how grand the facility would be. But if we can know those components, we could actually figure out who to bring to the table, who we might be able to partner with, and that's the piece we're seriously missing right now.
May I answer?
The whole package here.
Go ahead, Fran.
If I can answer your question, UNCA's pool looks like the exact twin of Zeugner. I have never, they must have built them the exact same day. Now, the difference is with UNCA, they've recently relined and invested some money in their pool at UNCA and have brought it up to current standards. The second thing I will tell you is that Warren Wilson College Pool closed on December 19th. And at this point, there is no plan that I know of to move forward. So that's another piece of the puzzle.
Why did that pool close?
They have needs structurally for that facility, is my understanding, and did not repair it, or not plan to repair it.
So it's still, just to follow up on that, so the pool is still there, they're just, when you say closed it, it's like it's not operational,
Right.
the water's been drained and it's just
Yeah.
not being used as a functioning pool there, but the pool's still there. I mean, if someone came in and said, hey, we'll invest in this or whatever, it could be resumed, is that your understanding?
I don't have that level of knowledge of that pool.
Do you know how big that one was?
I would say it's 25 meters, it's not the 50-meter pool.
It was my understanding that the cost to repair it didn't warrant,
Yeah, that's what I heard too. I mean, it's just that it's, it's very expensive. I mean, we're looking at all these big numbers here, and so my understanding from talking to some Warren Wilson folks was that it was just, they had other capital needs that they couldn't justify spending that much on a swimming pool just for them. But again, if there's, if it's more broadly accessible to the public, then maybe that's a conversation worth having. So.
I have a question. Do you have any data on swimming trends, public swim versus private swim? Is public swim up or down? Are people choosing to build pools in their community, in their neighborhoods and in their backyards versus coming out to a public pool?
I wish I had that answer for you. I did check and see that one of the trends has been, there's been a number of, I think, 4 or 5 permits recently to housing developments for pools to serve the residents that are moving into those. I did not check on the number of backyard pools. I know for our pools, outdoor pools, for the last 5 years, there's been a trend down in attendance.
Okay, so
Very
county
much
usage.
County usage on the 5 outdoor pools is down. Now, I've tried really hard to figure out the weather patterns, the school dismissal dates, when they go back to school, and to make those all make sense to me. The thing that makes sense is that the numbers are going down. I talked to...
Weren't they down about 9,000?
Pardon?
Weren't they down about 9,000 swims?
They're about 9,000 swim. One of the smallest swims had about 6,000 participants, and the largest had 20-something thousand. Black Mountain tells me their numbers were down a little bit this summer. I did talk to the recreation director there. I talked also to the city, and their swim numbers are not down at their outdoor pools. So it seems to be variable.
So, and maybe this plays into what the chairman was discussing. We know there's a need for swim teams, and those come from the county school system. And it's unclear, or maybe it is even a little clear, that public swim across the county, the desire or need, for whatever reason, the numbers are down. So maybe we have 2 different issues to work off of, trying to meet the need for swim teams and yet not venturing too far or too deep into the realm of huge swim complexes if we know public swim is on the decline.
And I've looked much more at the community recreation side of this to say, so if we had swim lessons, what group of people would we go talk to? They're not a group of people that say, here, the swim group, these are the swim lesson group. So you talk to individuals to find out, if we're doing baby lessons, if we're going to drown-proof Buncombe County and offer lessons from the youngest to the oldest and allow exercise that's not the group. We do know there's people that still miss the fact that we used to have kayaking out at Zeugner many years ago. So there's some, and scuba diving lessons. So there's a lot of programming that happens in a facility that attracts the community with your programming.
Now, as far as programming goes with classes, I know that's a big component or program of the Y. Is that correct? So that need is, that need is satisfied apart from the county having to provide that.
Maybe if we could retract just a little bit. I did hear you say for swim teams that maybe we need to be talking to the schools. I heard you say that for swim teams, we need to be talking to the schools. We can do that. I think visiting Warren Wilson to see what it would take to put their pool back in shape would be very beneficial, too. I'm afraid we're going to get lost in the what do we fix without addressing the bigger issue of some direction about where we go on a larger facility. So
I'll jump out there.
Okay.
I would, after many years on this board, I can say that now, I have gotten my head around that, the county supporting one indoor pool is a good thing. I mean, I think that makes sense. Now, I get worried about this central location thing, but I hope, and because I think the truth of the matter is that would be the ideal. Probably the ideal would be at the nature center in terms of, but I think probably what's more important is that we offer that, amenity to our, one indoor pool to our community. I like the idea of approaching the schools in terms of some partnership and maybe in terms of the funding partnerships. Because when I hear about the larger ideas, I mean, I can get excited about that too, except for that kind of kicks over into want, not need, in my humble estimation. And then I get really, I thank you so much, by the way, for including the operating cost in that. That was awesome to see, and that was just really helpful information to me too, because I think it's a justifiable thing for the county to subsidize to a degree, but I think that we need to. It's not an endless blank check, and pools are tricky, and they are not these money making. They're not. They suck the life out of you, and so. So I think at whatever scale, and I heard that loud and clear, that some subsidy is going to be needed. So that's just where this commissioner is, that feels like, a responsible way forward is to determine how we can, since Zeugner is going away in 6 weeks, how can we put another indoor pool into the community in a perfect world centrally, but if not a perfect world, at the most cost expedient way, which would be at our sports park where we wouldn't have to go buy land, approach the city, the county schools, and that's just to get the conversation rolling. That's kind of where I am at this moment.
So
I like the bubble thing too, though. Can I just finish that one thing?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, I did have a little fantasy for a second about well, gosh, if you, bubbled 3 at different parts of the community, then that would kind of get over the access part of just having one, and you'd maximize their indoor capability, and then you'd diffuse the central thing. So I like that idea. And it seems like it could be a pretty equal. If you're going to have to pay $6.5 million for something, then you divide it up. So I like that's something else. I'm also very open to. I meant to say that too.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Commissioner Frost. You were next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Beltrapper.
So I think approaching the schools is good for one part of it. I also think I understand about the big pool, but I do think it would be great. But if we could branch out to our community partners, the baseball fields in Candler, if they, they're going to have competitive softball. If we could, reach out to those folks. The swimmers are very, very passionate, but they've never come to us and said this is how it could be funded. So maybe put that part of it back at them.
Vice Chair.
I also, light went off when I heard 4 out of 5 of these are located, of the existing uncovered pools are located near the schools. Most of the use of Zeugner is being used by competitive swimmers at the school. also was interested in how quickly you could do a bubble, or cover, or, and what the cost. I would like to know more about that from a convenience standpoint and, cost-saving standpoint too. And it can meet the need. I mean, obviously, most people would like to have a brand-new this or that, or, somewhere. But if you are able to cover an existing pool and meet the need, the community's not going to care, what the structure is, as long as it meets the need and they can go in there and it's comfortable and they can swim, and we're able to do that and do it very practically. Then it seems like that's certainly something worthy of direction and looking at.
And I have to agree with that one thing, because when she's talking of the bubble, I'm not the youngest man in the room, but in 1963 we went to Gatlinburg on a skiing venture, and the hotel we stayed at basically had the bubble and heated. They had heaters that blowed into the bubble, which basically almost kept it up. And it's pretty neat to go skiing and go swimming at the same time, and this was a long time ago. So the bubble idea, and basically getting the schools tied into that, and what Mr. Belcher brought forward, if you do 3 of them, you're at $1 million each. It breaks it down, or get with the city, because from what I understand, the county, when they had the pool out at the Nature Center, they had it heated, but the city turned the heat off to the pool because they don't heat pools. So you can have a bigger option there. So these areas you could look at without having to build anything, because we're looking at pools that use 10 weeks out of 52 weeks a year, and that's and losing money. You got 9,000 short as far as people coming in, so it's getting more costly.
Well, the other thing too, if I could say, on this line of thinking, is that your 20,000 is the maximum usage right now, right?
That's one of the bigger usage pools, yes.
But if that pool was covered, how many people would come? The elderly are probably going to flock to it, certain times of the year, especially if of course that depends on if it's heated or not. So then we're getting into something else. So I didn't mean to run that rabbit. I'm sorry. I just got into heated pools, didn't I?
No, I think, Vice Chair, I think that's a good point, because who are we building it for? I think that maybe that might help us refine our discussion even more, because if we're building it to replace Zugner and high school competition, that's one thing. If we're building it for elderly and for community use, that's a whole different pool.
Absolutely. Temperature and depth of pool. That's where the whole programming precedes design. So what pool you get will depend on which audience you're going for. And if it's for water exercise, that pool temperature is different, and you can't just flip a switch and knock the. I guess I should ask Commissioner Jones this, who has a lot of experience, that it's hard to take a pool down 5 to 10 degrees in a long time, much less quickly. So that's a major difference.
But I do think, so let me back up on my thought. I do think that if that particular pool is covered, that there will be more people use it, certainly over the course of the year. Not only will it meet the need of the school, but simply because of the 10-week issue, it will be used. The people will just come and use it more.
Could we chase Commissioner or Chairman Gant's question about who really is our audience for this pool? Who's our customer?
And one real important thing, I see Stephanie Brown here, very important is, what if we build it for the community, do we build it for people outside the community to come here and give us hotel nights? Whether it's done, whatever we do with it. And again, I think Commissioner Belcher serves on the TDA, and Stephanie is here. That's another thing that we factor in, and maybe it's a big deal, maybe it's not. Personally, I would like to see us build at least a high school championship level pool, so that we could host things here, maybe have some state championships here in high school, whatever that takes. I would go a little bit further, but I'm real interested in the rest of the commissioner's opinion about the community part of it, because it almost seems tragic to build something for a very small number of people when you could do a little bit more and get the whole community involved. And that's the piece of the puzzle. How much more that cost is probably the multi-million-dollar question before us.
I think we'd be much better able to answer it if we knew which of those things you wanted or how many of those things you wanted.
So who do we want to serve? I guess
Well,
that's where I'd like to go.
I want to throw another wrench into this.
It's very wrenchy.
What I have heard from people in the east end of the county, if you're poor and you're old and you need treatment for arthritis through water therapy from a pool, or you're a cardio patient, there is no place in the eastern part of the county that people can go to. These are poor, elderly people that need therapy to continue their way of life, and there is nothing for those folks. And if they don't have a car, they're not on a bus line, we're not serving them.
Do we have a uncovered pool out there in that area? What's over there? Black Mountain?
But that doesn't serve them.
Oh, no, I know,
Yeah,
I'm just for
yeah.
point of information,
Yeah.
just wondering.
Black Mountain and Owen.
Okay.
So we know that we have an immediate need with Zoigner and the competitive swim. Ms. Green, you suggested discussing a possibility with the county school system to supplying that.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And you,
So can we move forward on that, and then maybe try to collect some data on how much the bubbles would cost, and how and who we would be serving? Maybe we could
We did a bigger one.
try to get some data on who would use the pools the most, age group, if they have specific needs like Commissioner Frost mentioned, just so that I think we need to know more to make a good decision.
and I think we can gather all that information. We just need to hear from you about what you'd like for us to gather it about. I mean,
Bubbles, who will use it?
well, who would you like to use it to? Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where again, to add another wrench and to kind of potentially go more in a loop, is that, so it's not just like what do, these people want in terms of a pool, it's, well, what do these people want? Which gets back to the assessment. So like maybe, low-income folks are more interested in having, access to, playgrounds or basketball, or as opposed to a pool. I mean, so because at the end of the day, we have to choose between a lot of these things. It's not just, so again, I don't think that helps refine, but, where I come from again is that, maybe another way to help would be if we could kind of get, clear on what we think a reasonable, budget allocation is for this, and then send them, a pack in to figure out, the wheres and the whos and the purpose. But so
One more consideration is to build it in stages if we wanted to do something more than just replace Zoigner. And could you comment on that? What studies or maybe what other people have done, if we did choose to? We may not choose to, but are these things ever done in stages?
I guess I would, I don't have as much information on that. I know that when we've talked about in the past, there is great efficiency to doing them all at one time. So when we looked at the sports park, we talked about going maybe with a smaller pool with the ability to add on a bigger pool. So it would depend on the amount of land, the roads and ability to support them, and building appropriate infrastructure like parking lots. So because to park for a smaller pool changes dramatically as if it's now a much bigger pool and you're pulling in regional competitions. But and I guess that's more of a planning answer than I probably have the most information on.
Okay, well, it seems like to me it would be tragic to just replace it without, if we could do a little bit more and have some competition, get some room nights out of it. Because I think we are the center, we've got the hotels, we've got the TDA, we've got the business, and I would like to think a little bit bigger than replacement. The range, it appears to be from $2 million is what you said to cover the pools, to $32 million for a huge facility, a major facility. So I think obviously we're somewhere in between that. I would like to get the final number on the pools and where you would recommend we do the covered pools, get that number, And then I would just like to see us build something that would be high school competition if you couldn't get the colleges. And I don't think, the colleges are so cumbersome to go through. We've tried that. We've reached out several times on several facilities. I don't know if that's realistic, but at least do it enough for some competition so that our kids could stay here and compete with other places. And I don't know if there's a difference between the regional and state competitions of high school or what. In the meantime, I'd also, have we surveyed the healthcare providers about the elderly needs and some of these medicinal type pools that help?
We talked when the initiative in 2007, when we were gaining a lot of community support and a lot of groups around an indoor pool. Yes, we talked about it then, but I've not had those conversations since 2007.
Because it seems like that's almost two different facilities. I mean, you can do it in the same facility.
It's definitely two different pools.
What we're talking about is two different.
Yeah.
The main thing is I have heard that at Care Partners, they have a pool for what you're talking about, Ms. Frost. And then if you're talking about the people that don't have the money and stuff, I think that's why we have Mountain Mobility to be able to, you know, if the doctor says they need to be there, Mountain Mobility can deliver them to that point and bring them back. You know, because a lot of them can't make it to, if they can't drive and they can't make it to the local pool, how are we going to get them to it anyway? So, but, you know, we have these different areas that reach out to help these other people like Care Partners and stuff.
Hey, I make a
Okay, so I'm
suggestion.
going to take a shot at rounding back to one thing that I may be hearing that's consistent, and if I'm wrong, then the commissioners can correct me. We keep coming back to we have an existing need we're going to have an existing need for the schools. So could we agree to give direction to see if we would be able to get some consensus or traction with the school system to be able to help or do or, you know, fund full or partial this a facility that would be sufficient to meet that need, because that's going to be an immediate need, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's, you know, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, expandable, you know. But you're going to have when I say you, I mean, conversations are going to have to be had.
And I'm happy to do that I'll start with Dr. Baldwin I do see it as two different projects to do whatever we need to do for the swim teams for the high schools, because that's a heavy use of a pool.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
And I think even in what he says with Mr. Baldwin and them, if there's nothing can come through there, then we go look at, you know, even utilize them, that it could benefit all the schools a little more with the bubble covers on some of the pools that we only used for 10 weeks. Now, you can go to, I think we've got a pool out toward Weaverville in that district, you know, split them up into 3 areas so that it can work better in certain ways. And then you still have the YWs and stuff and other schools that they're utilizing at the present time. So I think if we can talk the schools into paying for it right now, we're better off, because that's what we're looking at more for them at the present time than we are for us. Because if we're losing revenue already on the pools that we own and short 9,000 people in the 10-week period, let's find the money where we can, so the taxpayers our local taxpayers not going to be burdened so bad with it right now, because our budget's not looking too pretty with things we're having to add anyway.
So what pool is 6,000, only uses 6,000, utilizing the lowest one?
This year, our outdoor pool that had the least amount of use was the pool at Owen.
I mean, you know, we might get, which is interesting that it's Owen, we might get way out of the box on here and say, okay, well, maybe we bubble that for the population that cannot, you know, that needs it heated. I mean, you know, this could be, we could take something that's being very underutilized and maybe at some point in time we may have to take it and address that need instead of spending $35 million.
Right, and part of that's placement, Commissioner Belcher, because it sits between the Black Mountain Pool and the recreation pool.
Yep.
So you've got several outdoor pools. I guess we're outdoor pool rich right there in that one corridor.
But you kind of see where my thinking's going, is if we have something an asset that is being underutilized as a non-heated pool or whatever, then, we might look at another way to utilize that and let the people go to something else. So.
And then to what Chairman Gant was saying about something big, have serious conversations with TDA about how much
It'll take time.
how much they'll give to this. We can't have that conversation and, think about TDA without a commitment from TDA.
TDAs are money anyway, isn't it?
But you need direction for now.
Yes.
And I'll tell you where I'm at. I don't know how to wrap this up, but
That's one way
I
to
think
do it.
we need to focus on the need versus wants at this time. So for Commissioner DeBrule, I don't know. I would love input from you guys. If we could just decide to go forward, focusing on need rather than want, while awaiting the data that we've already discussed.
Okay, I think, so let me repeat what I'm hearing so we don't go astray here. What I'm hearing is we have a need for swim teams, and I'll talk to Dr. Baldwin about that. The other thing I hear is a focus on taking the existing pools and repurposing them the way they are, whether we bubble it or whatever we do. I'm not hearing anything that says that we want something above and beyond that. And if we want something above it, I think Chairman Gant has mentioned several things above and beyond that, but we need some direction if you want us to spend staff time on anything above and beyond that. And I don't think we're getting that. So that would bring back the other things that you've all mentioned.
Well, I'm okay with that.
I would like to go over and beyond that. I'd like to explore it. That's just the chairman's opinion. I just think we're penny-wise and dollar foolish to build an adequate facility when we could build a little bit more and get in the community and possible tourism money. And I just think we're missing an opportunity. Swimming is big business. When we heard from the swimming people at the CRA, it's not 10 weeks. It's a lot more than that. There's a lot of meets going on, just like we've learned from the other facilities if we build them right. I understand it's more money, so it's 4 people control what we do further, but that would be my opinion, to get more information on the bigger and see what we can do, and then make a decision whether we do it. We're not going to vote to do it today. We're just voting on the concept, but she's desperately asking us for direction, and we got to have 4 people to direct her.
Are we asking to go out and spend money to see how much this other part would cost, Chairman?
I think she's already got that. She just didn't have it today. Isn't that what you were doing with the group? Wasn't that part of it, to see what was the need of the community with this report that we don't have today?
With the research that was done, the citizen survey, yes, there was some of that information. It wasn't as specific to that. It was more about recreation in the big picture, not specific to pools.
Okay. No, I wouldn't. I think we study. I think one of the things I'm proud of in the county, we don't study things to death. Maybe we're a little too fast sometimes, but I don't want to study this for another 10 years. I'd like us to make direction whenever we're comfortable. But we've got to have the information, and I just feel like we're missing a couple pieces of the puzzle.
Well, right now I'm just comfortable with Ms. Cabrillo's suggestion to bring what that is forward.
I mean, I think what staff is, I'll just call out the elephant in the room. I think in terms of the next step for them to develop a budget, that's a big difference in figuring out how we're going to pay for $6 million capital outlay in 35. And I bet that the higher we go, we're knocking at some hard conversations about tax increase. And so that's, I think, the other layer of why we're trying to give direction now, so she can kind of come up with this bigger overall budget. And so sympathetic to that, too.
Okay. How about this? We give direction to talk to the schools about using sales tax revenue for those competitive pools. We also, Chairman Gant, asked to ask in the community what partners would come forward and fund this bigger pool. To explore if we have partnerships in the community, so it's not a drain on taxes or anything else, but really seek out what community partners would step up and be a part of an aquatic center, whether it's Mission Hospital, Park Ridge, TDA, all of it. Is that?
I think that's good. What's the pleasure of the other board members?
Yeah, and the way that Dr. Green described it, and I think we're all, again, David has obviously indicated an openness to maybe a higher level of investment. For myself, in terms of that range, I would definitely, in terms of the county's direct investment, would lean towards, the lower end of that to sort of meet this need for replacement of the failing facility. And if there are some fairly, relatively lesser expensive ways to get more value out of existing facilities, then I'm very open to that, be it covering some of those pools, partnering with Warren Wilson or the city or whoever else might have some infrastructure that we could enhance. I'm definitely open to that. So that's, anyway, the way you described it, Dr. Green, and is consistent with where the direction I'd like to go.
I would also echo that.
Okay. Okay. So
Any other directions we want to get?
Well, the main, no more directions. The main thing is, like Ms. Jones had spoken. If we was to look at this as a board at the present time, and all of a sudden we all decided we're going to vote on $35 million, how much would that run the property tax up? Would you have an idea there?
Between the debt service and the operating, we're looking at $0.01 to $0.015.
Penny and a half.
For the biggest one.
So that's not good. So we need to
No, I
figure
don't
out
think
a way.
anyone wants to raise taxes.
We need to
over
figure out a
this.
way to pacify everyone, whether it's big or little, okay? Without any kind of property tax raise.
I think exploring partnerships for anything, anything.
Yeah, partner with them or partner.
Public-private partarbships, sponsorships.
If you could partner with the city on the pool that they have, now, that's the big pool, and get an idea of what it would cost to cover it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is I'll talk with Dr. Baldwin about a way to meet the needs of the competitive needs for the swim teams, and we'll look at how we purpose and repurpose our existing facilities and work with the municipalities. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we got that.
Okay.
All right, next.
Next, we have any more recreation?
Yep. I just had a couple of comments about these other matters. So one of them is just the question about the Lake Julian gate thingamabob. So, so like when boats are being carried down or back or whatever, like how long would the gates have to be closed? It's just like it's like
10 to 15 minutes, 20
Okay.
minutes is what I'm hearing, a short period of time
Okay.
where that trail, that
Okay.
greenway would be closed for safety's sake while the boats pass through that opening.
Okay, fantastic. And so would the people who would open and close the gates? Would it be the rowing community would? Okay. And then, or would we put signage around so the walkers would know like when, because you can predict it mainly, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome. So the other thing that do you need direction on these other two things? These other things that have been popped out here? Like, I'll just go ahead and say it. I think the Lake Julian part improvement part makes a lot of sense. I'm very supportive of the Greenway part. The new community park is the thing that's kind of new to me, and it looks lovely, but I'm looking at that price tag and just thinking about how many community playgrounds we could build with $230,000. I mentioned to you this in the break, like how many, schools are out there. I mean, I think at Fairview they're having a pie contest. I guess they're paying $10 to get hit in the head with a pie for this little playground for disabled children. And I just would like to think about maybe it's not an either or, but in terms of our FY16 budget, if we had a allocation for matching grants for community/school playgrounds, that we could help some of these that were just right here, and they don't need a lot to get over the edge. But I know there's that Fairview one. I know there's one at Hall Fletcher. I know, Jones is coming around the tube. My guess is there's some other ones too. And I just think you can get so much bang out of your buck for kind of getting playgrounds, up to snuff. So I'm not necessarily against the new community park, but I just want to, if in my world of preferring a benefit of investment, I think playground could really improve a lot of kids' lives pretty quickly and for a lot of money. So that's just where I am on those other things. But good job.
Then I think those come back to the commissioners as part of the budget cycle.
Okay.
That was the capital request.
And to Commissioner Jones's comments, which are valid regarding the park, because there's really no detail there, is you'll be bringing back more detail as to what that would look like, what the costs would be incurring. It is an unusual piece of property in that because it's floodplain, there's certain structures that can't be built, certain things that can be done, and it's a piece of property that is not being used. And I think that's where this is coming from, and I also think the number's probably high regarding that part too. But you'll be bringing more detail back on all of these later for us.
Yes, I can.
I just didn't want to send a mix. I mean, I know y'all go out and y'all work now, and so if there wasn't, somebody didn't raise their hand and say something, you would assume like it's, and this would be coming from the side when y'all have already baked a lot of stuff going. So I'm just raising my hand and right now. So
yeah, and I have a procedure question, Fran. In the past, we've had a Recreation Advisory Board. That was abolished when we did the Cultural Recreation Authority. The General Assembly has abolished the Cultural Recreation Authority. Do we need a board that, similar to the Conservation Easement Board, that has some real priorities and criteria that they rank things so that we can, maybe help give direction more, at least get recommendations from folks that have gone through this a little bit, so that when we get them, it's kind of like, okay, this is the ranking we recommend, because we can do this. And maybe this is the best way to do it. It's direct, but I'm wondering, do you think our procedure is good? The way we're going, just instead of having a citizens board getting input from different parts of the community about how to rank and how to move along this path.
I'd have to give that one some thought, because we've been back and forth with several different boards and configurations and commissions and authorities, and so I'd appreciate an opportunity to talk to the county manager about that to get some input before.
Okay, I'm not taking giving a preference. The procedure part of it. Sometimes it's good to get it and have people hash it out over a couple meetings over time. Instead of a setting like this where we can do that, but sometimes there's not as much information and maybe there's concerns about different areas.
And I want to what Commissioner Jones said, I'm not yes or no about that other park, but I just know, to touch on what you said, like in Black Mountain recently, last year, they did a little bit of a fundraiser. They got some grant money, and we contributed, and for $20,000, they made a mud hole into a lovely park, and that was $20,000. So
that's what I'm talking about.
So I think if we could explore that.
And just for clarification, Fran, on the Candler property, the vision, you said it's not envisioned as being a playground, more of an open space, kind of passive
a gathering space
right,
with a walking area and some seating spaces and places for people to gather. Playgrounds to me would not. I would have to defer to FEMA on that, but my guess is they're going to be very specific on what can be allowed, and there is the input that we would need next.
And there's cognitive, there's things you can do just in a little small area, whether it be, puzzles or whether it be, rope things and that are not structures. There's a lot that can be done.
Can't you, just as an FYI, can't you put playgrounds in floodplains? Like the whole French Broad Carrier Park, that's got to all be floodplain, right? Just floods, it just kind of, what's the problem?
We have Karen Cragnoli in here.
Karen? Yeah? You can, all right. I'm sure there's some rules to follow, but, conceptually, it's not a showstopper, right? Right, okay.
And this is floodplain, not floodplain, so.
Okay.
And I'll just throw something else out. Our friends in Wake County government, they had a program at one point where they would match any municipality who wished to do a greenway or park. Now, I think they had a bond model to fund that, but there's a lot of ways to do this, and we can survey and do the best practices. That one always intrigued me because Wake has one of the more extensive greenway systems in the state now, because they've really gone after it. So it just depends on how fast, what this board's priority are, and we can talk about all that over time.
We will be bringing a lot of these things back in consideration with the budget adoption. And same is true of the next presentation.
Okay, any other recreation? Yes,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Fran, that was
Yeah, it
awesome.
was good. Thank you for your time today. I really
Tackled the
appreciate it.
tiger by the tail.
Steve and Fran. Okay, any other questions for Steve and Fran leave? All right, well, let's go on to maintenance, vehicle, and related request. I want to hear about related requests, Greg. We have Greg Israel here to talk about that. Thank you.
It's good in the suit, don't
You do look good in the suit, Mr. Israel.
Just for y'all. Well, I am here today to talk to you about maintenance requests that are related to existing facilities, and also to bring you some fleet capital request information. But what I want to do first, since my presentation is very short in comparison to these others, is show you a new tool that we've got in my department, and you can look at it on your iPads or on the handout. And the business intelligence team for Buncombe County came to me wanting to create a dashboard for me. And that really did not excite me, because most dashboards that I've seen are rather static. You don't get a whole lot out of them. It's just a place to pull a number from. But as this moved on, this has grown into much more. That first slide that you're looking at right there is a snapshot of the emissions summary for Buncombe County. And one of the neat things about it is it's as of December 31st. This information is being compiled monthly now. We never used to see any of this information except yearly, and we never saw it in the detail that we have. So instead of having a static dashboard, we're getting information that we can run trends on and pull reports from, and up-to-date cost, monthly records, that really help in our planning for capital and just for daily maintenance needs. This sheet here is facility energy usage. So on this sheet, you can look at the total energy cost for whatever period you've selected, and we can go back to 2007. You can look at the percent of change between the energy cost of the prior year. The emissions change from the 2013 baseline. Current cost per square foot, and I want to say again, this is as of last month, what was it costing? So it's real current. Also, it shows you how many of our buildings meet the Energy Star standards for building usage intensity. So we've got a lot of really current information here. And on this page alone, you would notice along the bottom, the blue links, there's 5 more pages that you can drill down from here to get more specific data as you go along. And this would be one of those sheets, and I kept sitting back there kind of wanting to wave my hand when Brownie was talking about the cost of the parking deck. What does it cost? Well, that's where you go. When this site is under construction, but when it's ready and fully released to y'all, you'll be able to sit there with your iPad and pull it up and look at the energy costs specific to the parking deck. You can drill down if you just want to know electricity or gas cost for the year, how that compares to last year. And, that's one of the ways we project the cost on operating these facilities. But the ones that I've opened here 200 College, and the detention center. So it gives you a breakdown of the three main utilities that we use there. The total costs by period, and there again you can choose 2012, 13, 14, 15, what the percent of change has been from the previous year. So there's just a lot of information that's going to be available here. It's going to be a facilities management tool to me more than anything, but it's going to be, you know, you're not going to want to see me in the file to give a utilities report anymore. You're going to have it in front of you monthly. So that kind of begs the question, using that as a springboard, as what are we tracking? And I'll give you and kind of orient you on this map. The red cross in the upper right corner is the interchange building. The bottom center is my office, is at 40 McCormick. And the upper left is 202 Haywood, former sheriff's office. So that kind of gives you a snapshot of where you're at. Inside that footprint, we have 23 named facilities. So I'll take this opportunity to tell you that a facility is not only a building that's occupied with employees and citizens, but it's also a park or even a parking lot, just to kind of give you an idea. So in that footprint, there are 23 named facilities, 24 acres in that footprint that's owned by the county, for a total of 1.3 million square feet of occupied building space that we operate inside that area. And if you're looking at your paper packet, the next sheet down is a spreadsheet that lists those facilities for you. The next slide I want to look at is a 2-mile radius of the courthouse. So it's the one with the yellow circle on it. In that 2-mile buffer, that 2-mile radius, we have 31 named facilities, but we've picked up a different symbol now. We've got a yellow cross on your map. Those are what we are termed here as vacant lots, but we refer to them as, most of them are tax lots. It's foreclosed little slivers of property that are the leftovers when a development is done, or it's mainly unusable properties that people allow the county to foreclose on just to get it out of their hands. There is the 34 acres, 2.1 acres of that is the tax lots. So with 11 vacant lots and only 2 acres, you can see those are very tiny pieces of ground. But still, the problem is there. They've got trees on them is my biggest trouble. And I'll visit these lots periodically and spend tax dollars taking down trees where this citizen has let that lot go into foreclosure, so they don't have that responsibility. Now it's became a county burden. And I have to go in there and when trees die or when they fall, get them off other people's property. So it is property that I visit on a regular basis. And you will also have a spreadsheet behind that slide as well. I want to look at the countywide map now. We have 165 sites in the county. 106 of those are what we would call a named facility. That's a place we visit on a frequent basis. We have 59 of the vacant lots, which would be mostly tax lots. And we have 1,535 acres that the county owns. Now, you're going to find the bulk of that acreage is our previous and our current landfill. And that's where a lot of that acreage rests. But still, that's a lot of land. 131 acres is the vacant lots, and that's tax lots. That's flood properties, just like the Orchard Street property you were just looking at for the park. That's included in that vacant lot. We're now at 1.9 million square feet when you take in this countywide of occupied building space that the county operates. And I wanted to bring this out to you that when we come forward to you with these maintenance requests, that you'll have the full picture. We may be talking about 140,000 square feet at the jail, which is one of the items I'll bring up in just a minute, at the detention facility. But on the overall, that's 140,000 square feet out of 1.9 million that we operate. So I think y'all need to know what we're dealing with. You will find there is not a spreadsheet behind this map because it was too big to put into your packet. What I'd like to do is go back to a downtown shot. This is a much tighter shot than the first one we saw, but this is where the bulk of these CIP request dollars are going to be spent at. If you, I'll be referring to your CIP packet that you were given, not my handout now, and I just want to read off the requests that we're asking for. We're requesting $40,000 for a tile replacement project in the 1995 detention facility we built. So that's in the original detention facility, which is now 20-plus years old. We're having to look at replacing the ceramic tile in that facility at a cost of $40,000. We're requesting $30,000 in design money, professional services money, to look at the current kitchen in the detention facility and look at the projected inmate population and the needs out to 2020 and see what we need to be designing for so we can keep up with the needs of those inmates over there. Requesting $130,000 for the detention facility for a groundwater mediation and freezer slab replacement. We've had a wet weather spring, groundwater, whatever you want to call it, show up under the jail, and it manifested itself under our walk-in freezer. So when it froze, it heaved the slab up 8 inches inside the freezer, and as we cut all that out and got down there, we have running water under there, and it's been tested, and it's just groundwater. So we have a fix. I've been working with an engineer to capture that water, replace the freezer slab, and get us back in operation down there, but it is, the estimation is $130,000 for that project. Requesting $45,000 to install access control equipment on the 7th floor of the College Street parking deck so that we can reserve space for the sheriff's vehicles. Since the sheriff recently moved to the 4th floor, we have to accommodate about 60 vehicles that he has in the parking deck. We're requesting $150,000 for elevator modernization for 35 Woodfin Street. And that elevator, the building was constructed in 1969, and that is the original elevator from that building, same controls and cab and everything, so it's just lived its life. For this building, 200 College, we're requesting $200,000 to replace the window seals in this curtain wall glass. This is the tall 2-story windows that you can see from the street all the way around the building. And just recently, you probably noticed we had a swing stage on the building checking this out. And what we've come to the conclusion of is that they installed the seals incorrectly when they built this building. And those are kind of a one-shot thing. If you didn't put them in right the first time and you compressed it all together, it's not like we can take them out, readjust them, and put them back. We've got to open every window in here of those 2-story windows and put new seals in them all the way around. We estimate that cost to be $200,000. The next item I want to bring to you is major maintenance needs, and this is it's a little different in that a lot of these items were identified by the department directors when we sent out for budget request. And so they came back to me, I went through them, added what I thought was correct dollar amounts to them, threw some of them out as not necessary this year, or pushed them out 2 or 3 years. So the original, the list is for cooperative extension, $25,000 for carpet and $22,000 for a foundation repair. Public Safety Training Center, $7,500 to polish and seal the concrete floors. Planning, $18,000 for an interior refurbishment. $15,000 for Allport stairwell repair, and $30,000 for an exterior stucco repair. One is related to the other. The water's coming through the stucco and is ruining the masonry wall in the Allport building. Under library, recreation, and culture, there's a $73,000 request, and that's for various libraries, and it's roof repairs, signage. The bulk of it is a retaining wall at Pack Library that is in need of repair. And also we have a $42,000 request for the interchange for the elevator controller at the interchange building. That one was put in the mid-70s and is in need of replacement. I'm bringing that to you as a total package, $232,500. Next item is resurfacing Irwin Pool. And as we talk about what we're going to do with these pools, all of these need to be considered as well, because these pool surfaces, typically, if we can get 10 years out of one, we think we've done good. And it's $55,000 to resurface that pool. Moving on, at the detention center, there is a request for $875,000 to refinish the floors in the existing facility. That's the 1995 facility. We learn as we build these things and go on, so that was 20-plus years ago when we did that, and the floors were painted. You don't paint floors in a jail. We found that out because they follow specific tracks and they don't deviate from them. The inmates do, so you get this wear pattern. And also, when you go back to repair it, you find out that that type paint can only be applied to an empty building. And so we can't take the inmates out to repaint the floors. So we're looking at an epoxy finish now that's more of an elastomeric. It is not a paint. It's got a low VOC, so we don't run the risk of making anybody sick in there. But that would be,
you know that elastomeric sounds just like another country to us, don't you?
Mm-hmm, that's why I use that word. It's just, it's more of a rubberized, instead of a thin paint coating that dries hard, it's a softer coating. But that would be for the entire 140,000 feet at the detention, 140,000 square feet at the detention center. Next item is $310,000 to renovate 2,800 square feet at the Lester Crossing out by Land of Sky. And that would be to move the sheriff's evidence room from 202 Haywood Street into that space. Next item is $260,000 for a partial roof replacement at the Allport building. This would be over the permits and inspections department. We bought a 10-year roof 12 years ago, so it's just time to replace. And we're actually going to buy a longer lifespan roof this time around. And that covers the facilities part. I want to move over and tell you about fleet very quickly. And if you bring the PowerPoint back up, Judy. And then we'll go to questions. This is the same website we talked about earlier. Gives you the same options on fleet. You can look at it monthly with monthly updates. It gives you current miles per gallon, cost per mile, just about anything you want to know on that. But on the fleet CIP request, these are all for Sheriff's Department vehicles this year. We're requesting 20 replacement vehicles for patrol. And in the past, we would have just basically been talking about 20 Dodge Chargers, but we're buying more of the smaller vehicles now, more the Jeep Patriots with 4-cylinder engines and Explorers with 6-cylinder engines, trying to rein in our fuel usage. So we have a total of 20 vehicles for $549,934, and only 5 of those are Dodge Chargers. So the rest of them are SUVs, which we need during the winter months anyway, and they are a cheaper to operate and cheaper cost vehicle. The other vehicles for the sheriff, total of 28, I guess I should have said, are 8 new vehicles for the school resource officers. Resource officers are currently driving the Dodge Chargers V8s, and we're proposing that we buy them 8 Jeep Patriots, 4-cylinder engine. It is about $5,000 less than a Dodge Charger, gets much better gas mileage, and it will only be marked, and it will have blue lights, but it won't be outfitted like a pursuit vehicle. So we're saving a lot of dollars there, and it's just really not necessary for what they do. So, and the total cost for that is $177,944. So I will take any questions you have now.
And Greg, just on that last point you made, those the vehicles for the school resource officers, I'm just going to show my ignorance on this, but they look like sheriff's law enforcement vehicles, right? And that's part of the benefit, right, is that when people come to the school, they see the vehicle, and it sends the signal that there's law enforcement presence
Right.
at the school. Right, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Israel?
Because these are school resource officers and they're not, we're not going to do that. Are these little vehicles, are they four-wheel drive or?
They are four-wheel drive vehicles. Yep.
Is there a way that we can, when we know we're taking them out of V8 Chargers, is there a way that we can put them in another car that's similar, but with a four-cylinder in it that's not basically four-wheel drive, because schools are closed whenever it snows?
The obvious answer to your question is yes, it could be done. It's just a matter of.
They can still mark them the same, and,
This has become, I guess you would say, a preferred vehicle in the county, and is that Jeep Patriot. It gives you good gas mileage, and it does have the capability of four-wheel drive in case it's needed during bad weather. But to your point, yes, if they're not moving during school, that you could as easily mark up a white Toyota Corolla as you could a Jeep Patriot.
Do they respond to calls, though?
I don't, that's not something I should answer.
Well, I do think that we still require them to work on those days. They don't get
Right.
the day off, so.
Right.
But I don't know exactly where they get assigned. We can check that out for sure, though, before we
Because I
come
think,
back.
don't they all respond to calls?
I will find out on that. I don't know where they're reassigned on those days.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Israel.
Thank you.
Good presentation. Next, we have Trina Parker with Election Services.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
All right, let me, PowerPoint. Okay, thank you. I am here today with just one request. I am here to request that you consider allowing us to upgrade our voting system. I am here because the State Board of Elections instructed us 3 years ago to designate the 2015-2016 year as the year to begin to upgrade voting systems. And they did that in preparation for the presidential year. As you know, Buncombe County has optical scan paper ballot system. You can see our current system on the left, the picture on the left, and the picture on the right is the upgraded model. It is the same type of scanner. It is, as I said, just the upgraded model. Same vendor. There is only one vendor in North Carolina at this time. There may be other vendors in the future, but what I'm being told is that the State Board has just now put together a committee, is going to be hiring consultants, is going to be looking at all of their standards. They're starting from square one, and this could take months, many months, and possibly a year or more. So at this time, we only have one certified vendor. I'll come back to the pictures in just a minute. In the election world, we begin with the end in mind, which is fair, accurate, efficient, voter-friendly elections. In our world, we begin with a calendar and the elections that we have to conduct. We then look at all of the necessary deadlines and milestones that we have to meet in getting to those elections. We plan all of our other projects within those appropriate timeframes. In our world, timing is everything, because when it is time to conduct an election and it's time to serve the voters and it's time for the voters to vote, our time is up for projects because it's all about service at that point. So when the State Board of Elections directed us to plan on the 2015-16 year for an upgrade of equipment, they didn't know these two facts that I've added here. They didn't know that the law was going to be changed, election law was going to be changed, so that North Carolina would be holding a presidential preference primary. And not only that, it will be holding a presidential preference primary a week before South Carolina, if South Carolina holds its primary by March 15th. We are hearing at this time, got a memo from the State Board Executive Director that we are to plan for either a February 16th presidential preference primary or a March 1st. We've never done one of those before. It's going to be fun. It is only the presidential race. Other races will not move. So it will be a countywide election with only the presidential races on it. The State Board of Elections also didn't know at that time that a law would be passed that would require all counties to make a transition to paper ballot by 2018. Come on. Okay. So, with the end in mind, what does the end look like for us, 2015, 2016? I have, this is just a snapshot of the highlights, and as you can see, we will begin municipal filing in July, little time to prep in August. We'll begin mailing out paper absentee ballots for the Asheville primary in September, move into the primary, then straight into the municipal elections in November. Those elections overlap October and November. And then as soon as we finish that, or probably not as soon, that will probably overlap as well, we've got to be ready to mail out absentee ballots for the presidential preference primary in December, because 60 days before an election, those ballots have to go out. Then the next month in January, we'll be in full prep mode for the presidential preference. As soon as we finish canvassing that election in February, we got to be ready March. The beginning of March, we'll be mailing out ballots for the primary, the May primary. And then in April, we'll be in full prep mode again. We'll be opening one-stop sites and conduct the primary in May. And 99.9% of the time, we have a second primary. And so we will either have a second primary in June or possibly in July if it's a federal race. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
5 elections and 3 of those are back-to-back. I've put in red the number of voting sites that we will be opening for each election. We will be requesting probably a reduction for the presidential preference primary, but as the law is written right now, unless they grant us a waiver, we will have to open 14 sites. So the total number of sites here is 354 if you don't count the presidential election. If you count the presidential, that's 454. And I say that not to say, well, look at us. I say that to let you know that Buncombe, there are no small elections in Buncombe County anymore. Unless Biltmore Forest or Montreat decide to have an ABC election or something, again, we have to open these sites. Participation might be low, but the amount of sites that we have to provide for voters, the amount of work that goes into it it's no small elections. My other point with this calendar that I just went over is that, as you can see, by the time that we get to August of 2016, we'll be looking right in the face of a presidential election. For the outer world, everybody is pretty well agreed that, you know, the election season starts on Labor Day weekend, right? In our world, it starts, especially in a presidential, it starts into July, 1st of August. So you can see, you know, I was talking about time periods for projects. There won't be. We'll be in service mode. Beginning in October of 2015, it will be nonstop. Unprecedented cycle for us and for North Carolina. So what about our current system? It's been a good one. It has served us well. We have processed 1.2 million ballots for approximately, these are as best as I can come up with, approximately 10 million votes. And the bottom line, it is 10 years old. And in the technology world, that's old. It's at the end of its recommended life cycle, which is the other reason that the State Board of Elections told us to designate this year to replace. Okay. Take a breath here for a second. I want to talk to you a little bit about changes and challenges. There are challenges with any change, whether it be the changes the old system's going through right now or the changes that we will be facing with a new system. First of all, like I said, the technology's old. Parts are becoming more and more hard to deal with. More and more replacements, battery replacements are becoming more frequent. I asked our voting system technician or warehouse foreman of everything that he's seeing right now with our current system, what concerns him most. And he pointed out number 3. I think about, our just old aging bodies too. It's temperamental. The system is more temperamental. It will do different things, and it's a guessing game. Well, do we need a little more adjustment here? Does the scanner bar need replacing? Does it need a little more oil in the joint here? It's just more of a guessing game now when things go wrong. It's just getting old. I'd like to point out to you that in our world, less than perfection is negative. The public and the voters expect perfection, and less than that will always produce a negative perception. No matter what it might be, we might be just putting oil in a joint, but it scares them to death, okay? They don't like when they have to put their ballot in an emergency bin for scanning later. They don't like it when a ballot is put in and it comes back, or they go to scan and it comes back. I bet if we polled the people in this room, there's probably a decent handful of you that have had a ballot come back to you a couple of times. And you'll note that I say scan and not count. It's just that they're becoming so temperamental, it takes 2 or 3 and sometimes 4 to get the machine to grab it and take it in. So it's counted, it's just those bars are getting temperamental. So we need it to scan the first time every time. That's just the bottom line. Updated flashcard technology eliminates batteries. I bet all of you have a flash drive that you use with your computers, right? Well, we don't have that with this current system. What we have are the old PCMCA cards. So that allows for more digital imaging. So there's a lot of pluses in that way too that I can get into more later if we need to. Just updated technology. I'd like to go back when I talk about enhanced voter and worker. Okay, you see on the right, the upgraded model. There's a big screen there, and it has a picture, and it has some colors, and it talks to them. You can't see there, it says, welcome, please insert your ballot. Look on the left. See that tiny little window above where you put your ballot? There's not enough room there to put hardly any words to begin with, and it's kind of a green hue. It's just old technology. It's not communicative. The new model is much more voter-friendly, worker-friendly, and I don't know if you've ever done this yourself or saw somebody else do it, but I don't know how many times I've been at a precinct somewhere watching people vote, and you'll watch people put their ballot in, and they'll stand there for a second. They'll sort of look, and they'll sort of listen, and they want something. They want to know that the deed is done. They want to know it's been counted. They listen. They've learned to listen a little bit to hear the ballot drop, and they've learned to look to see if the counter moves. But that's kind of vague. This machine comes back with the screen and says, thank you, your vote has been counted. They want to know the deed's done. So that is an enhancement that to me is extremely important. You'll quit hanging out around the machines as long too. So. You're done. Okay, next. All right. So upgrading now, what does that mean? That means we can take advantage of all the visual and auditory friendly features that I just mentioned. It means that there will be improved recognition of characters. Basically, in layman's terms, means that the eye will be reading more consistently, the light marks, the dark marks. And the more that we can get the machine to do on a consistent basis, the less hands there are in the pot. And we want the least number of hands in the pot as we can. The workers don't have to go figure out what's going on. Part of our request for an upgrade is an upgraded absentee scanner, which is what we call the big scanner that many of you have seen in our board office, election board room. But the one we have now scans 200 ballots a minute. The one that we would get, if you allow us to, with this upgraded system, counts 600 ballots a minute. As you know, we are prone to recounts in Buncombe County and North Carolina. We have to count early voted ballots by precinct 60 days after the election. We have to go through those and count those again, absentee counts, and also provisionals. All of those counts can be done, a third of the time, definitely. Recounts take us days with lots of workers and temps, so we can cut the time period in at least by a third. And that will also reduce the amount of time that it will take us to canvass each election as well. So if we upgrade now, it'll also mean that we'll have dedicated time for implementation, for assimilating it into our processes, for educating us at the Board of Elections office, our staff, workers, voters. It'll get the voters used to it before the busy presidential election. And finally, it will allow us to get money back for our current system if we upgrade now. Going back to one of those facts that I mentioned about all counties going to have to transition to paper ballots. Well, what's happening out there is what you might expect. A lot of counties are waiting to figure out, number one, is the law going to change? Number two, do we really have to do this? Maybe we can. So what's going to happen is the market is going to change as far as how many scanners are out there. Right now, we know we can get a decent amount of money for our current system, a trade-in value. Later, we may not. It's all about supply and demand. We don't know what other states are going to do as well, but we know right now, today, we can get money back for our system. Did it again. Couple of final facts that I hope you will consider as we talk about this, and that is that Buncombe County is used to processing approximately 84,000 voters during the early voting period in federal years in 14 days. We are now being asked to do that, the same number of hours, which we will provide, but we're being asked to do that in 9 days. So what that means for our early voting sites is very long 12 to 14-hour days and very busy days. Those sites will have lines when they open and they'll have lines when they close every single day. So we will have little time to manage aging voting issues, and I'm certainly positive that the workers are not going to want to do that either. The elimination of the straight party voting choice is also going to affect us. It will likely create longer lines. The best we can do, we put every single voting booth out there that we can. We'll do everything to make sure that there aren't lines, but the bottom line is that people are going to be marking every single oval. And in 2016, we're going to have long ballots. So once again, they're going to be at the voting place longer. They're going to be in the voting booth longer. The cars are going to be there longer. A lot less time. They're going to be like deer caught in the headlights with all those crowds in front of them. So just less time for us to be dealing with aging equipment issues. just in closing, I just ask that you consider this in light of the fact of the ridiculous, unprecedented schedule that we're looking at, and the very condensed time that we have to upgrade to a new system, to do all that education of the public and our workers. And we ask that you consider this to help us meet that end, especially providing a voter-friendly, voter-confident election in 2016. So that's why we are making our request now that in the 2015-16 year, we are provided the opportunity to upgrade. Any questions?
So the idea is that if these are funded, which I think they should be, but they wouldn't be online for the municipal district round.
They can be.
They could be.
Yes, they can be. If you know, depending on what Wanda can do and what y'all decide, we would have to conduct a test in October,
right,
just to meet the state board's policies of having a test before you implement any new system. And then we could implement the whole system for the municipal elections in November, yes. So that way we would be able to get first city voters accustomed to the system, and then the presidential preference primary, a little bit more of the citizens, and then the primary in May, a few more. And so there'll be multiple times for everybody to get used to it before the presidential election hits. And that's how we plan our world. As I was saying earlier, we always plan for the big one, and we plan so that there are no changes right before the big election. That's our best. We've learned no precinct changes, no nothing. We want everything like it's, so that they'll be comfortable.
Trina, okay, if you were talking about trading these machines in now, are we just still looking at the $1.5 million with the trade-in?
No, I really think that we can do better than that. I really think that we can. The vendor is quoting me a little bit lower price, so I'm fairly confident we won't need to spend that much.
Okay, well, I like in the last election where you had the paper ballots that they automatically printed out your district instead of whatever you did in that machine. That helped a lot, and I think taking them through them, if we got to do it anyway, getting it through the city elections gives y'all an idea how it's going to work. And if you can get more money back than us spending $1.5 million and it being mandated, that we need to work with you somehow to make that work. That's where I'm at.
Would you just sell them to, like, Nicaragua? I mean,
yeah. Well, they do that. They absolutely do that. They first look to other states, and then they look to other counties.
Yeah,
absolutely, they do.
Yeah, and that's not a small factor. It seems like I remember the 10 years ago, we didn't get too much, did we? One year we didn't get hardly anything.
We didn't get anything because the law changed, and it required all counties in North Carolina to either have a paper ballot or to have a paper receipt. And the ones that we had, so it was a huge change in the whole election system of North Carolina is why. And, other countries back then couldn't afford the electronic model that we had, so they couldn't resell them. I looked back today at what we actually spent on the current system, and you probably remember this as well. We received approximately $900,000 from the Help America Vote Act to buy our current system, and the county spent $160,000 for the system that we've been using for 10 years. So
they don't owe us anything.
Of the machines, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how come there's only one vendor?
It was a very rigorous, I can't answer the specific questions. I just know that it was a very rigorous certification process back in 2006.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And this one vendor fell out. It's a very rigorous process, and that's why I say that while they're telling us there will be possibly other vendors to choose from in the future, that future, we don't know when that future would be. And I'm responsible for making sure Buncombe County voters get taken care of. And until they figure out their stuff, I'm going to make sure that we take
Yep.
care of Buncombe County.
Trina, what's the back of the envelope estimate for this additional presidential primary that we're going to be doing?
Approximately 150,000.
Gotcha.
Sure.
It's going to be a big budget year. Just warning you.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Parker?
Y'all do a good job.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Trina.
Chairman, could we take a 5-minute break before we get into the next group? Is that possible?
Sure.
And if I could just say really quickly, I know it's been a lot of information, but it's so helpful to us to hear from you and for you to have some idea of what we're juggling around, so thank you for your time today.
No, and we were just saying,
It's really
this is
good.
really, really good.
This has been so informative
Yeah.
so far. I really appreciate it.
Let's get back, let's do a motion to recess till 2:20.
Yeah, just
Is that good?
bathroom break.
Your motion?
Yeah.
Chairman, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll be back in 10 minutes.
I was getting ready to get into a coffin space. Quicker than I thought then. Yeah.
Very good. Let's go ahead and get started. We have several more items on our agenda. Let's see, we have other requests. County manager.
Yeah, we request, where is the county?
Okay, well, we'll go on to non-capital request. We have, Dr. Green, do we have other requests?
I'm sorry, I just want to.
That's okay, I'm sorry. Other requests, I had used presentations, anything else?
We just have a non-profit on the next page.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're on the nonprofits. In fairness to all the people, this is a tough one for y'all. It's a tough one for me too, but you got 3 minutes. That's the rules. You were told this before you came here. It's the same treatment we're going to give for folks that don't have capital requests. I know it's quick. We do have your material. Some of you don't. But we'll certainly take any material. But to treat everybody the same, and we try to do that, everyone's going to have 3 minutes, whether it's capital or non-capital. Today we're going to hear the nonprofit capital request. And we'll start with the Asheville Housing Authority. You won't start till you get up there now. We'll do that for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm David Nash, Chief Operations Officer of the Housing Authority. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, and we did put our application together fairly quickly, so if there are improvements that need to be made, we'd be glad to have that conversation. As you know, we have invested about $5 million, slightly over $5 million in the old Reed Center on Livingston Street. It's recently been renamed the Arthur R. Eddington Education and Career Center. It is primarily a job training facility, and smaller portion of it is an office for our developments in that area. And we were able to put some work into the old gym that was there, including replacement of the heating system, painting, and replacement of the lights in the gym. So it looks a lot better. One item that we didn't have the capital funds for was the floor. So our application is approximately $144,000 to replace the hardwood gym floor in the gymnasium. There are a couple other things that aren't on the agenda today that we also didn't have funding for, and I'll just mention them because we probably will be coming back around in future years, related to the auditorium, where we need to basically renovate into kind of a lecture hall and modest performance facility, and in 2 to 5 years we'll need a new roof on that building. But I'd be glad to answer any questions if there are any about the gym floor, and that's what our request is today. Thank you.
I have just a couple
Yes,
questions.
yes, Dave, Commissioner
Thanks for being here, and good job on your time. That was good. So how many kids are playing basketball now on that floor?
When I go in there, I see probably 20 at a time. One of the backboards is broken, so it's not an ability to play full games in there, but I see 15 to 20 kids at a time playing. Primarily they work through Upfront Sports Management, which is one of our partners for services in that building.
But my understanding is, I don't pretend to be over there on a regular basis, but I pop in from time to time. I mean, it seems like it's used a lot.
I think it is used a lot, and I think it would be used more. I think it would be used more with a good floor. It also, until the auditorium is finished, is the space that we have there for sort of larger gatherings and possibly job fairs, that sort of thing, related to the training program.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Nash?
I just want to say it's an amazing facility building. What you all have done creatively to raise money has been, and it's a jewel in the community, and others could follow the model that you all have done. And I did go there to speak one time, and the first thing I did notice was the floor, so that's my plug.
Thank you very much.
And David, I was just over there. I just happened to have a chance to be over there recently as well, and it looks great. I mean, the work y'all have done is terrific, and I know it's really appreciated. So if this if this does get this gets done, there have been plans for, if I recall, for an additional gym down next to the South Side Center, I mean, that's been contemplated as a future phase of something that could be done there, but if this facility continues to be fixed up, I mean, is the idea, and this may be more of a question to the, to city council than to you, but just as a person who's kind of involved in stuff over there, is the thinking that, this would just, since this facility would be fixed up and functioning well, that there may not be that other facility created because this one is now, up to snuff, so to speak, or I don't know if there's a short answer.
I was afraid somebody would ask that question. I apologize for not knowing the answer to what the city is currently planning at the Grant Center. I don't know I know that at one point they were going to be trying to do architectural drawings for a gymnasium down there, and I don't know what their current status is, so I apologize for that.
Fair
enough. I
Just
can find out the answer to that question. What I would say is whether or not the city builds a gym at the Grant Center, we're going to have a gym at the Eddington Center, and it needs a new floor. That's just the reality that we're facing at this point.
Do you have any different bids on it, or?
We have one estimate. We would certainly get bids to make sure that we got the best value for the project.
And then see if we could, probably, as different people, see if we could come up with some help from like Home Depot or even Lowe's to come up with wood.
We could certainly approach them for those kind of contributions, but I can't say that we have done that yet. We have not.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd echo the fundraising comment. I think Commissioner Jones, I did a Dancing with the Stars one time.
Yeah, right.
It was Dancing with the Non-Stars in my case, of course, but thank you for looking after yourself and trying to provide your own income. That's always impressive to us.
Just some point of information for you. Pisgah Elementary just replaced their floor. They replaced it with these interlocking grids, vinyl grids. It looks amazing, and I'm sure that it was probably less money than the other type of floor. You should look at it.
It's certainly something we would look at and will look at if we need to. We would like to, given the sort of traditional nature of that building, to maintain a hardwood floor if possible, but I understand that there may be more economical options that need to be looked at.
It looks pretty good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Next up, we have Coburn Earth Science Museum.
That doesn't bode well.
We're fans.
PowerPoint.
We have Michelle Stoll here excuse me. Go right ahead.
There was a PowerPoint. Is it up?
It's probably coming.
Well, I can talk without it. My name is Vicki Ballard. I'm Executive Director of the Coburn Earth Science Museum. As most of you know, the Coburn is leaving Pack Place. It was there for 22 years. It was a very sudden decision. This usually takes several years. We made this decision and we'll be moving in less than a year. We expected this presentation to be a little later in the year. Our official announcement will be made this weekend. We are moving to 1 Haywood Street, which is the Wells Fargo building, being renamed the Cowan Center. We'll have an 8,000 square foot facility there. Because we're doing this so quickly, we're going to do it in 2 stages. There will be roughly 3,000 square feet, which is our current exhibit space, that will be open this summer when we leave Pack Place. We will be working on another 5,000 square feet over the next year. We're asking you to help fund the Southern Appalachian Geology exhibit. It will encompass history, culture, and geology. This is very important to me. Some of you may also know I'm from Buncombe County. My family's been here many, many generations. The Coburn was the first museum I ever visited as a child down on Cox Avenue. It made a huge change in my life, and it's still changing lives. Combining science with history and culture is very important with the way kids learn today. This exhibit will be the center of what we're doing. It's going to be very interactive, but we're going to be very careful with our technology. As I've seen here today, we don't want to be replacing things really often, batteries and having things. So we'll be using traditional museum exhibits and using technology for interactive learning centers for children, and also to make the exhibit more accessible for hearing and visually impaired people. One of the photos I had in the PowerPoint was of my grandparents' house in the Ox Creek Valley. The people who lived here worked very hard to make this the place that we all love now, the place that so many people love to visit. This exhibit is going to make that history, that tradition, and also the science of this area accessible to everyone and to the people who come here to visit. And I hope I did okay with
And what's the amount, Vic?
It's $275,000 for the full exhibit. I feel kind of like I'm a cable bill coming after you've just been told that you need to replace your furnace and your well. But yeah, $275,000.
Is that for the 3,000 square foot exhibit or the 8,000?
This is specifically for this exhibit. Now, the $275,000 will fund the exhibit. It does not include any of the upfit costs or the renovation of the building. We're funding all of that privately. So this is specifically for an exhibit.
It will be the
And
permanent.
It'll be a permanent exhibit. It will not be in the 3,000 square feet because that's going to be a very small footprint. So it will be in the larger area. We're going to have the 3,000 square feet ready by the end of this fiscal year. So it would be in the next phase.
So this is an attraction to get people to come and
It's to
fund
get
the other
people to,
renovations.
it's to get people to come, well, it's to get people to come so that they'll know what a great place this is. It will not be to fund the other parts of the other part of the museum. It will be specifically a permanent exhibit within the museum space.
The 275 that you're requesting, is that payment in full for the 3,000 square foot exhibit, or have you saw other?
The 3,000
Donate.
square feet will be the initial opening part of the museum. So this $275,000, I think, is specifically for an exhibit, not for the museum
Okay.
as a whole.
What I'm curious about is if you've sought partnerships or.
We have, the overall project is going to be just the construction, the renovation and construction of this space is going to be over $1 million. We're not asking the county for any of that funding. That is all coming from partnerships and fundraising and grant money from other sources. So this will be specifically for an interactive exhibit and learning center within the museum proper.
Where you are now, how much has your rent been for the last 22 years? And
How much has our rent been? Well, we have had the benefit of being in Pack Place, which was supported. The rent portion of it was donated by the city through the Pack Place organization. The county paid for utilities and maintenance and staffing of that building. So we only started paying rent to the city in January. So this will be a big change for us.
how are you going to be able to pay the utilities and stuff in the area that you're moving into?
Well, we have a board in the museum that is very fiscally responsible, and they feel like we need to pay our own way with that. We expect to generate a lot more income, and we're actually going to have windows and a street presence instead of being tucked in the basement. So we expect more revenue from memberships, from admission, and also from gift shop sales. We have strong community partners, and we have a very supportive board that does a lot of fundraising.
Well, I'll congratulate you on raising $1 million.
Well, we haven't raised it yet, but
Well-
we're working on it. Anything else?
Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Rebecca with the Art Museum, and I see Pam's here also. We're going to have Kim.
Let me first make sure I understand how to advance the PowerPoint. There you go. Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm Kim McGuire, a board member of the Asheville Art Museum. And you see before you a beautiful image of the new Asheville Art Museum, which is a dream that's coming much, much closer to reality. The arts, as you know, are a major economic engine in our community, generating nearly $44 million in economic activity in Buncombe County annually. That's all the arts together, including $2.3 million in local government revenue from property taxes and related sources. Governments that support the arts on average see a return on investment of $7 in taxes for every $1 appropriated. Creating a cultural center in the heart of our downtown with the county, the city of Asheville, and the whole community generously participating has been a tremendous success story. The Pack Place facility was a catalyst that increased the tax base with new businesses and housing, drew out-of-town visitors, and provided quality education and entertainment offerings that local residents enjoy and are proud of. A little background for you all and to remind you, we've presented many times here before about the specifics of our project, and you all have been supportive. You gave early support in between 2006 and 2011 of $115,000 for our planning period, and since 2012 the museum has had a request before you for $3 million of support toward the capital project itself. You all have committed $600,000 so far, and hence the $2.4 million request before you today. The new Asheville Art Museum directly supports the county's sustainability goal for economic growth, and complying with your sustainability goals are a part of the requirement for this application process. And conservative estimates that we have show that we expect a 100% increase in visitation based on increases in Asheville as a vacation destination and expanded programming. We're going to double the museum's current overall economic impact, adding nearly $7 million to the local economy and supporting over 200 area full-time equivalent jobs. As has been proven widely, additionally, the access to cultural resources contributes significantly to decisions businesses and individuals make in choosing to relocate here. I'm going to move ahead to our slide on education. Another goal of the sustainability plan is increased education opportunities. We are serving over 8,000 Buncombe County students each year, and it is helping them increase their academic achievement and just all across the board prepare them for the workforce and being successful. New museums have been started around the southeast, and you see this here. In closing, I just want to say that our last slide, you see that I'm sorry, the left-hand pie chart shows
the fair with everybody else.
Pardon me?
You just wrap up.
I'll wrap up that the left-hand pie chart shows that 75% of our funds are raised from private sources, which we're very proud of, and geographically 44% of our funds are from outside of Buncombe County. We respectfully request from you all, if you can't do the full $2.4 million, we are requesting that you consider continuing the $250,000 a year that you have been providing, with the understanding that you all are seated commissioners for 2 years. So we request that you consider $500,000.
I'm sorry. We're going to be fair with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay.
I'm here to help with questions, our director.
Anybody have any questions for Kim or Pam?
So I kind of heard through the grapevine that y'all have been successful to get to a point where you can get going with the construction.
So yes, we are at $17 million toward our $24 million goal. Our board has approved proceeding with the construction documents, and this year, during 2015, we will be doing the ingress and egress construction, and then toward the end of 2015, we anticipate actually breaking ground on our actual construction for the overall project. So we are very close, and that's why we feel that this investment at this time from the commissioners will help just jump us toward completion.
Great, right. And the TDA funds are all cut loose now, too?
They are all confirmed at the $1.5 million. That and then 2 million from the city comprise a lot of our other government funding.
Okay.
By cut loose, you mean they're going to be
They're available.
committed to the project?
They are committed
not-
to the
not
project. I'm sorry, they are not cut loose. They are committed to the project. We've been through an intensive review by the TDA where they just reviewed everything we'd ever submitted. Every single one of our donor commitments was reviewed through an audit and remains committed and positive.
Of the 17 million, how much is government money?
That was on the
government money, including the Tourism Development Authority and the City of Asheville, and some federal and other grant supports is with the current fundraising is at 25%. The request to the Buncombe County in specific is for 12. Were you to grant the entire $3 million, would be 12.5% of the total project, which is on the lower end of what other counties are investing in their cultural infrastructure.
Yeah, we've shown projects that range up to 65 and 75% down to 10%.
What, 15%?
The question was just of the 17 million, how much of that is government money?
Of the 17 and plus million raised to this date, 25% of it is government money. I would just like to mention in that regard, too, that we are in receipt of a $1 million challenge grant that we are endeavoring to match. We need to match it $2 million to $1 million, and we'd like to do that in the next several months. We've raised 39% of that match in the couple of months since that grant was given to us. And again, that's new money to Buncombe County from a foundation outside of Buncombe County and, in fact, outside of North Carolina.
And an allocation from Buncombe County would count towards
towards making that match at this time.
Gotcha.
Just to follow up to Commissioner Frost's question, of that 17 million, how much of that is in the bank or in trust fund or has been collected?
There is 7.4 million cash in cash and investments. There is 1.3 million in pledge payments and active payment cycles, and there is $7 million that's either conditional or escrowed, including, for example, your previous allocations and the tourism development allocation and the City of Asheville allocation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from the Asheville Area Center for Performing Arts. Michael Stoll is here.
Thank you. Chairman Gant, commissioners, staff, thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to speak with you about the status of the Performance Center. The request that we come to you with today is one request, and that is the establishment of a working group to look at the funding for a performance center. We are in the process of, it's not, okay. It's to look at the establishment of a working group to look at the different components that would be made up in the funding of a performance center. The working force would be made up of different aspects of the community, both from the perspective of commissioners, staff, city, corporate, university, leaders of the community, to look at the different components of building a $4.5 million annual fund for 20 years to be able to undertake the establishment of a performance center. The total cost of a performance center is $55 million, and that's the result of a significant amount of work that we've done. We've worked with our local architect, Alan McGuinn. We work with Tom Tavit, to look at the impact of a performance center. Looking at the impact, we're seeing roughly creation of jobs of over 330 jobs annually. We're looking at an economic impact of $31 million a year that Tom put together for us, $19.5 million of tourism spending, as well as almost $5 million worth of additional tax income to the federal, state, and local economies. So as a result, we are at the position of having talked with other communities. For instance, having talked with Greensboro at how their public-private funding, where the city of Greensboro then challenged the community to match the city's $30 million, to match that with a $35 million commitment, so that Greensboro is now building a $65 million facility. We've also worked with Nederlander, which is a New York City production company, which has an interest to come into Asheville. Several years ago, they had pointed out that the Thomas Wolfe is not sufficient, does not have the requirements that are needed for Broadway plays and other types of entertainment, and they've been unable to come here, but they're interested to work with us specifically, and as they do in Durham, they fund...
Mike, you can finish up. Thank you.
Okay, they as well, they ensure that there are no losses, they guarantee no losses, and they share in the profits, and Durham, over the past 5 years, has reaped anywhere between $400,000 and $1.6 million.
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Stoll? I want to treat everybody the same. I'm not trying to be rude. Any questions? All right, sir. Thank you, Ms. Stoll.
Thank you.
Next, we have Pat Whalen with Public Interest Products, Inc. Projects, Inc. Projects, close.
Thank you. I'm hoping I'll get my PowerPoint too. Do I have to do something to get it to start? You don't have it. Okay, great. I'm here representing Public Interest Projects. We own the Orange Peel. Asheville, as we all know, was in dire straits for many years. It was all boarded up and empty. Imagine pictures that you could see of that if my PowerPoint was going. Now we're much better off. Live music has been a big part of what's brought Asheville back. Before we were Beer City and Hotel Town, we were known for our live music. That's continued, and we're getting national press for our live music. Everybody know in the music. Great. It'll be like a video now. So this is how Asheville looked. I think we all of us who have been here know what it looked like. Now we look better. Live music's, made that change. We've got a national reputation for our live music scene. We're getting national press. We get a buzz. I like that quote particularly, that we're tired of bands stopping in Nashville for a hamburger on their way to Asheville. We've got all these great accolades now for our community. Live music's played a large part in that. The live music scene continues to expand. This is just a show where people buy tickets just for the Orange Peel from all over the country to come to Asheville. But every summer, the live music stops. Every summer, we have a dead period in Asheville because the national artists are going and playing in outdoor venues all around the country. All over the Southeast, other cities have amphitheaters and are hosting those shows. We have the best weather, we have the best scenery, we have a beautiful river, but we do not have an amphitheater like this, and Asheville deserves one like this. We'd like to pursue doing a public-private partnership to make this happen. We have on the private side, we have us, AC Entertainment. Riverlink has the site on the river now. We need, indication from the county, also of course from the city and the TDA, that we can do this together. AC Entertainment has tremendous experience doing outdoor venues. They're one of the top 40 music business promoters in the country. The Orange Peel has been recognized nationally as one of the best live music clubs in the country. Riverlink is a great local partner with a great site already they've done a lot of vetting on Amboy Road. Together, we could bridge that gap that we have every summer and bring live music back to Asheville in the summers. Performing arts tourism is one of the biggest kinds of tourism. People travel to go to live music more than just about anything else. We have other sites if the Amboy Road site doesn't work. Such a facility would cost $6 to $8 million and would have great bang for the buck because it should produce that or more every year in economic benefit for the community. I'll
And
stop
what's
there.
the ask, Pat?
I'm sorry?
What's the ask?
The ask today is $50,000 toward due diligence work that's needed on the Amboy Road site. Even more than the financial ask, though, we'd like an indication from the county that they'd be interested in developing a working group to make this happen with the TDA, with the private sector.
And New Belgium, have they been in the conversations? Because I know they talked about an amphitheater.
That obviously would,
They're not going to do it.
that obviously would still be part of the conversation because they're here now. But, you know, we need, this needs to be a public facility. It shouldn't be a private facility. And to be a public facility, we're going to need a public partner or two on this.
The $50,000 that you're asking for to study the site?
Yes.
Would that be funded entirely by the county, or is that a shared cost?
Well, they've already, actually, Riverlink's already done some of the due diligence on this particular site. So it's already, some of the money's already been spent. The 50,000 really, you know, the situation here was supposed to be a funding request. So we made a funding request. Frankly, our bigger interest is the county buying in and being part of a working group to get this done. The $50,000 for all those studies, some of that will come from the private sector too, but $50,000 is what we're asking for from you. We've already had the architects come down and look at the different sites that we've looked at from Charlottesville, who also has an amphitheater. So we've had experienced architects, experienced amphitheater operators come down and look at the sites we have available, and we'll continue doing that part from the private sector.
Is this, excuse me, is this part of the
Frog
park
first.
area down there?
I'm sorry?
Is this part of the where the Amboy's at, the Amboy Road? Is
This
this
is,
part of
this
the
is
section that's in
between, this is the Riverlink property between the two park sites.
the old junkyard
Yes.
we're talking about?
Mr. Frost?
Are there, I know they have one at the new equestrian center in Tryon, but are there any other ones close to us?
There are not. And there are some outdoor sound stages being created around town. This is a world-class amphitheater we're talking about. There's another little issue that I should mention, and that is, in the music industry, all the artists sign radius clauses in their contracts, which means they can't play typically within a 100-mile radius. Other communities around us are looking to increase the number of amphitheaters. If they all get it done, it's going to be harder in the future for us to do one because the radius clauses are going to make it difficult for them to play Asheville. However, you know, I think in the live music industry, we have the best, by far the best reputation as a place to host these things. So it'll be a shame if we get jumped by these other communities doing amphitheaters and we haven't.
Is that 100 miles as the crow flies, or?
As the crow flies. Yeah.
So the fact that they're doing one in Tryon, we already have a problem with that.
Well, I don't think the Tryon one is going to be this. The national touring acts that we have at the Orange Peel and that AC Entertainment has at the Civic Center, and the kind of people we would have coming to our amphitheater, our biggest competition would be things like amphitheaters, the same size amphitheater. This amphitheater we're talking about is a 3,000 to 4,000 capacity amphitheater. It's not a gigantic thing, so it'll be amphitheaters in cities of our size, like Greenville, Spartanburg, Johnson City, that sort of thing. Now, I don't think the Tryon one will affect this one.
That capacity is about 8,000.
I think it's a different market.
Mr. Fryer?
How are we going to do this? Because there used to be a thing called New Asheville Speedway, and it basically got rid of it on account of noise.
Mm-hmm.
So don't you think this is noise?
I think this will be noise. It'll have a time limit at night that we close it down. But obviously, that's going to be part of the analysis that takes place. Is that site going to be a problem with noise? I think Karen, Craig Nolan, and Riverlink have been working on it as a sound stage for some years now, and they've done some research on that already. But that is part of the due diligence process, to make sure it wouldn't be a problem on that site. If it is a problem on that site, we do have other sites we've identified which could be used.
The deal was, even on the other site, it had a stage, and they had concerts at the racetrack. And they tore the stage and everything down, so they had an amphitheater already. So why would we go put something back that's already been tore down, or invest in something that way?
Okay. Well, again, this is intended to be an entirely different animal than that.
I'll just, I think it's a cool idea. So thank you for helping bring it forward, and look forward to talking, hope we can be part of that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. All right. That is all of our non-capital, our nonprofit capital requests. Our next order of business is county manager report. And I don't think we needed a closed session tonight. Is that correct? So we're on to announcements. Unless anybody has any other issues. Anything else come before us today?
Good.
I've got
Okay. The next meeting of our board will be February 3, beginning at 4:30 in room 326 at 200 College Street in downtown Asheville. And commission meetings can be seen live and on demand on buncombecounty.org and BCTV Charter Cable Channel 192. With no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a motion by Commissioner Belcher, second by Commissioner Frost. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We are adjourned 7-0. Thank you.
That was really
I'm impressed we got here at 3. There was a moment I was like, I'm not sure.
No way.
I thought, I know, I did felt the same way.
I was thinking 5. I have to confess.
Wow.
I need to go.
I lost my gloves and they were down here, so that works out good.
Wait a minute.
Did you not get your prize down there?
I don't know where I thought I left them, but then I was like, oh, yay.
All noises not created equally. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's pleasant noises.
Yeah.
And there's